know that whenever you get AI in, that is so strong, and I love that going out. Us being in sales, whenever you go out and you see somebody walk through and you inquired about something, you walk in the door and they're like, hey, Taylor, are you here to see your F-150? Instead of, hey, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. Because it's a different approach than it should normally be of just talking to a customer out on the lot.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
Welcome back to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, here to bring you something that we think is relevant, something that maybe engage, maybe disengage. Episode 36, Crossroad Conversations.
Man, we're glad you joined us this morning. We have so much fun. We never pause to talk about that. We have so much fun just being able to share real-world stories that we've gone through in business, what we've learned from others, and then what we also have just dug through the mud, figuring out some success and, some things that were tough, and that we just hope, even if just a small piece of it helps you in your business, that's our goal. That's our goal. So again, make sure to share that back with us in anything you want us to cover. But I do need to jump back to last week in that episode. It was a great one because it was talking about your competition. We talked about your competition both locally and, let's say, globally, okay? And we talked about how those are two different conversations and relationships for us within the industry. Locally, we've got relationships with all of them that safeguard us, and some protection that we communicate on. We also know what incentives they're running, what offers they're running, so we can stay at a competitive advantage. And then globally, we've got connections where people are not in our trade area, so they're more likely to share maybe some of their marketing or their stocking or their pay plan techniques. And that's out there for every single industry, even if you think it's not. Just take the time, go back and listen to that episode, and start creating those relationships so it can help you.
Absolutely. This week we're talking automate, elevate, or alienate. Automate, elevate, or alienate. And we're talking about what AI means for your business in 2025.
Hey, this is going to be a good one.
So
Absolutely.
We're going to fully cut through that and understand what works in our daily business, what doesn't work, what we've tried, what we haven't tried, what can replace the person or not replace the person, what the consumer wants, and then all the pieces that we've seen, tried, and failed with.
Agreed.
Yeah, transition into what did we drive today? Well, something back in stock that
Ooh, what do you got?
we've not had for a while, and I really love this because you know what they did?
What?
They took a proven vehicle and they just electrified it. I'm talking about the Ford F-150 Lightning. Ooh. Ford F-150 Lightning. I have one back in stock, a 25 model, starting to come on the ground. If you've not checked out, every person that I put in one of these to drive tells me that exact verbiage. This vehicle drives. It doesn't feel like it's plastic. It doesn't feel like it's... I said, well, they took the F-150 that's tried and true, proven, and electrified it. So we have one we use for events, so we power up to... Matt's had coffee makers and everything else going 30-plus hours, and they are absolutely amazing vehicles. You have to come by and check them out.
You know, the thing I like about the F-150 Lightning, and Taylor, you hit on it there, is what Ford did is they took what was tried and true, where the buttons were, where the functions were of an F-150, and they said, let's just enhance that from an efficiency and drivability standpoint, but let's not recreate the wheel here. When somebody gets in it, when you get in a vehicle, you take the time of like, where are my buttons? Do I feel familiar? Do I feel confident with this vehicle before I can enjoy the experience? And Ford cut down that learning time by taking the same type platform and converting it over to electric.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta love the Lightning. It's just all the fun and the wow, but also not too scary to jump over from gas over to electric. So they've done a heck of a job there. So we finally got one back in stock. It's been since December. They had it's been since December since we've had and it's not just an average Eddy. Isn't it a Flash?
It's a Flash, so it's extended range, Blue Cruise, big screen, all the technology, but saving you the most money.
Yep, it's a big value. So.
I think that's a point, and this isn't even on here, but we're talking business on this podcast, is that some people think that there's just a car vending machine that we get what we want when we want, and when we don't want it, we send it back to them in the return shipping label like an Amazon. That's not how it happens. And we've been trying to order some more of these flashes because, Taylor, you really started to make a mark out there in the industry with that flash package. But in our business, we have to manage commodities, and we don't always get what we want. So we're always pivoting.
Yeah, because Ford kind of changed their program of how they would do dealer allocation on the Lightning.
Yep.
They had a pool that you could pull from, and that was a great thing.
Yes.
It was super great for us because we had this large pool of available inventory, but we didn't have to have the holding cost or the wrong color or the wrong trim level, and we could have it selected, picked, and delivered within a week of a consumer saying, hey, I want this. Well, Ford pivoted away from that for various different reasons, and they said, hey, we want to switch it back over to the standard ordering. They had a layover gap of when they shut the portal down to when we did wholesale and that rolled out. There was some time, 4 or 5 months in between there. So Ford's got stuff to learn there as well as we all have things to learn. It was like, shoot, we had a huge gap because as we were leading the industry in EV sales, we haven't had an EV to sell to be able to be in an area there. There were some high trim platinums and Lyrics, but that's not what you as a consumer has wanted, so we have not got that.
So that didn't fit the bill. And this is probably one of the only times, and we're trying to be more transparent with you guys, you didn't really even hear us talk about that. Could we have sat around and complained and talked about that? Yes, we could, but we can't control that.
No.
So before we get into all this AI, let me just remind you out there, if you can't control it, don't assign time and energy to it. Why would you do that?
Don't.
But everybody does. Well, I'm not going to say everybody. We don't. You know what I mean?
Do.
It's just you get seasoned to go, okay, why am I talking about this? Why am I spending time on it when I can do jack squat about it?
Yeah.
There's plenty of other things that you can control. The easiest thing to do is hold a mirror up in front of you and see what's staring back at you. That's what you have control over.
Yep,
For
no
sure.
doubt about that. So that's stop by, check that out, drive that thing, and if it's something else you're looking for, we'll find it for you. So transitioning into our main first core topic.
Let's talk about it.
We said automate, elevate, or alienate. And we want to talk about how small businesses are using AI to automate and boost efficiency. Now, what you'll see there is that is not a replace.
Correct.
That is not in place of something else, but it's how small businesses, keyword small businesses, where expense, and we'll talk about that later, but expense is very important. So you say, how much does a software cost? Well, how much does another employee cost? So if you can allow AI to help automate and boost efficiency within your business, there's a lot to be gained there. So whether we're talking about inventory management, we're talking about online description management, or we're talking about communication with customers, what's something that you guys have seen that we've used that makes sense?
I think when we get into this subject and we start talking about those pieces there is, I'm going to let everybody else know out there, nobody has it 100% figured out. And we haven't taken like multiple systems and replaced them with AI.
No.
And this AI is on a fast track. It's going to be here to stay. It's going to help your business. But there's going to be some trials and some pick and chooses about how does it fit within my business? How do we work with that? You know, and at a simplicity level right now, it's really, I'm seeing that like what task do you do on a daily basis that it can either automate or they can help enhance? You know, one of the things I'm not the best at is definitely English and literacy is not at the top of my level of skill set. But AI helps that. You know what I mean? So when you start talking about, you know, emails or descriptions, that's an easy plug-in to use to at least get thought starters, even if you have to go back and modify it to get you moving forward there.
Yeah, most definitely. That's something that's going to help you. So you don't get hung on the details that overly don't matter. And by that, I don't mean like it's not important or relevant, but it's not your strong suit or it's not your skill set or where you want to spend all your space and time of you writing a perfectly written email to make sure that it's the exact way that it was supposed to be written in the correct terms. No, the email just needs to go out, right? So if AI can be a system that helps you, and then remind you, hey, you have not responded to this email, and it brings it back to the top, that's relevant. That makes sense.
And that's something that any industry can plug in that you don't need to go buy a whole nother system for. You can simply use the plug-in on that.
Yeah, and a lot of them are free because they're trying to get in front of people currently. You know, you see it on your iPhone. You know, every update has some more to it. There's ChatGPT in a free version. There's AI plugins that go on your Outlook or your Google you get an entry-level version, then obviously they have you wanting to get some more to help you there. But there's generation buttons within your email that says, hey, would you like me to generate that for you?
I think that's the point as we keep talking about topics here, is that this space is going to change so much over the next, for sure, 12 months. But you take 12 to 24 months, and then maybe even quicker than that, that you'll start seeing the big companies really buy up some of the smaller AI startups and really integrate them in. You know, whether it's, and Google has their platform, and Microsoft has their platform, and Apple has their platform. You'll start seeing all of these, and they will then integrate it more into the systems. But you'll be ahead of the game if you'll take, like you said, some of these free plugins, start getting familiar and used to it, because it's all about the commands of what you ask it for.
Yes.
And if you don't do that right, it's just going to frustrate you.
Yeah, and I think it's a thing, one, don't plug it in, set it and forget it. There's still the proofread, human element, how often, how good, what's the quality. You have to inspect that. But then you have to really, really, really give it direction. You know, no different than an employee. It's the exact same thing. It's just it doesn't call in, it doesn't get sick, and, you know, you don't have to pay it overtime. You know, so it's not a replacement for humans, but it is a good add-on that can help you. That, you know, and you say the prompts are so important, and I see ads all the time, and I think they're just trying to sell me more. But since so many people are still in the elementary levels of AI in the things that they ask it for, but if you ask AI what it needs to know in order to help you at the highest level, you can use its system to give you the feedback of what it actually needs. So it's kind of a conversation of a ping pong. And I'll tell you one thing that we use during Ultimate Challenge, I task myself to create a video every single day of a vehicle special. And it was more or less just proof to the team that it was super simple to be able to do.
Sure.
And so I used a couple AI apps to help me with that, because my time did not need to be spent to edit a video, to write text for that video, and to put captions in that video. So I used two different apps to help me do that. But I would use ChatGPT, and it continued to get smarter and smarter. It knew about the Ultimate Challenge, because I no longer had to prompt it and say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a description of day 18 for a 2024 Ford Escape. It's the Ultimate Challenge where 555 vehicles must be sold. I could say, hey, ChatGPT, it's day 18. My vehicle special is 2024 Escape. Here's the high points. Search the internet. Tell me what's relevant in a midsize SUV. And it would say, perfect. And it would give me all the stuff that was relevant for it. And I would tell it, hey, this is for an Instagram social story. And I could do this all voice text after I'd shot the video. And if I needed help getting direction on the video, it would tell me, hey, go over these high points. It would bounce it off the internet to know what's relevant or trending. And then it would just throw it back at me. And so that I could copy, paste, send, and let it go do what it does. And so I wasn't trying to be a film editor, creator, director, and all those things.
Because you utilize those systems. But for the listeners out there, let's take them through. So you were utilizing ChatGPT. What were the other AI tools you were using to put, if you walk them through just one of those videos?
Yeah, so the first video, if you had no clue of context, ChatGPT would give you the direction. But I would shoot the video, and then I would import it over into captions. Captions then would take and put visual on the videos. So the AI would take my words and put captions. So because we realize that a lot of people are scrolling their phones during work, in the bathroom, or, you know, maybe in an area where sound isn't overly available. So, but if I can put text over that, I realized that the scroll through rate was much less, meaning they would stop on that video. So then there's an AI generator within captions that I say, hey, today give me a color that's bright orange and yellow.
Yeah.
And so there was 4 different colors that it would give me of the actual word. It would give me the highlight word. It would give me the emphasis word, and it would give me the outline. So instead of me having to each day pick those colors,
Sure.
I'd say, hey, today give me a bold look. Hey, today give me a fast look. Hey, today give me a super saver look. And I would just make up stuff, and it would give me the AI scheme. So then it would copy. It even will change your languages, the languages you speak or the language of the captions. And that would take me about 30 to 45 seconds. I would hit save. I would export. It would export the video. Then it would go to Instagram. And then I would take that, and it pushes out to everything. And I would say, hey, generate me a description from ChatGPT that is relevant for Instagram for a reel.
Yep.
It would do that based on the caption of what I had said.
Yep.
It would put it in there, and I would say, hey, give me 10 relevant Instagram hashtags based on my information. It would give me that. I would put it in there. I would publish it to all the social channels. Then I would copy and paste it, put it in our Slack channel, all in less than 10 minutes time. So just using a couple tools there.
So I think the point, and the reason I wanted Shelby to walk through that is what he just said took him 10 minutes. And the first time you probably did that, what did it take, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Probably 30 minutes. And then after, let's call it a week or however many days, then that moved down to your efficiency point of 10 minutes. It didn't replace Shelby. It didn't replace the idea of getting content out there to social media. What it did is it upped your efficiency. What it did is it got more relative content, and it collected what would have taken you hours and hours. And I don't just mean by editing and coming up, but then searching the internet on what's relevant hashtag wise. You know, what's relevant that people are looking for with SUVs.
Yeah.
So it's a tool, no different than some other tools in our business, that just enhances it, ups your efficiency of your current employees. We're not replacing that. We're just making them more efficient. So then it opened up your day to do more managing things.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
It's so important to know whenever you're going through that, though. I was looking up a stat to see, because a lot of people that are listening are probably like, AI, you hit the nail on the head. It's replacing. I don't want computers. I don't want to do this. Don't want to do that. But so many people are seeing through, and you're like, well, it's kind of becoming a big deal. No, it's a really big deal. Because if you look online, over 80% of businesses are either already engaged in it or exploring that. And that whole avenue, revenue of it, knowing they're expecting that it's going to become over $190 billion industry of AI being in the business world. That's not even in anything else, just in the business world. So yes, it's that virtual assistant that can help you be more productive throughout your day, and allows you to be able to, hey, let me look and see if I have this one system that can help me here, instead of maybe getting another personnel in there. This would be way more expensive than that would be.
Hey, I like that stat you came up with there, that 80%, because we all get caught in this, and you know, I'm the same way, and we're all different generations in here. But you start getting into your career, and especially you have a successful area. But if you're not continuing to evolve, and your competition is, it doesn't matter what your opinion is about that. If other 80% of the businesses out there are embracing or exploring that, they're going to pass you by. And some technology like AI can catapult somebody in an entire decade. You know, they can really. And I was talking to some graduate students at the U of A the other day that are either getting their master's or working on their doctorate. Here's what everybody needs to understand. Within the next X amount of years, let's call it an entire college class, so 4 years, within the next 4 years, the people that are going into the marketplace, they're using AI for paper research. They're using AI, not necessarily to write all their papers, but to gather the information so they can write a better paper or have better answers. They're going to be experts at this, go into business, and rapidly be able to identify opportunities and ways to increase their market share, which could erode yours if you're not embracing it.
No doubt about that. Like, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that we saw, if we get complaints, and we don't get a ton, but
we're in business, we do.
Yeah, we get complaints, right? And so one of the largest complaints that any business will ever get is lack of communication. Even if you communicate a crazy amount, someone's still going to expect it a whole lot more and at a different level. So we have a tool that helps us for missed phone calls. So you ring into our dealership because Taylor, Matt, if you ever get a customer who gets a hold of you, it's like, oh my gosh, does anyone work on your phones? You're just like, oh, I have all the systems and I have all the operators and I try to give direct phone lines. So we saw a company out there that recognized when a phone call was dropped, they quickly reference, hey, has this person been in your dealership? Do you have a record within service? It's a service tool mainly, service and parts. And it shoots them a text and says, hey, we saw that we missed you. Can we text you an update and let you know and so it scours the system super quickly and sees that you have a couple vehicles, whether they're in service or not is what it says back. And so it goes from an opportunity of someone not communicating well or not being able to get a hold of somebody, then transfers them over to text. And it says, hey, are you checking the status of the vehicle? Do you want an update? Or how can we be of assistance? Are you okay to text? It sends and receives, because it goes back and forth and it has a notification system, 14,000 texts a month.
That's huge.
Wow.
And that's just and that gives time back to our service writers. If we can answer the question in text, we're not trying to push the customer aside from the communication, but we overly don't need your diagnosis on the vehicle because you couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
Right? You brought it to us and we need a proper description.
Sure.
But if you're just calling for an update, we left you a voicemail, but we get it, not everyone checks their voicemail, so let me just be able to text it back to you. So then that tool recognized that, and that was a tool that we saw that was like, hey, this could be good opportunity to take a frustrating situation and to say, here's how we can serve you. So that's something that thing's always moving of ways to adapt the ability. It also sends surveys out and says, hey, here's kind of a pre-survey survey, so we can see if there's an issue that we can quickly get with the customer to solve that at a higher level before it really starts boiling. So it really has helped our efficiency.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, not replacing the employee, but enhancing not only the employee, but then the customer experience as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that was even unknown.
Yeah.
We only got a 10th of the people that were actually dropped or not communicated with, would actually get to us. The rest of them, unfortunately, they might have left and not ever come back. We've talked about that at a restaurant before. We're not going to complain. And they can serve us a hot dog when we order a steak. We'll eat the hot dog, and we're not going to roast them. We're not leaving you a bad review. We just won't come back and won't recommend it.
Yeah, and if you can, pick up the ball, even if it was dropped, if you forget that it was dropped, as long as you do something good when you picked it up.
Sure.
That's right.
Right? Like no one's saying, hey, they fumbled it, and then what did they do from there? They're saying, no, he scored a touchdown.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's something that has really helped us. Anything else you guys think of for automation or boost efficiency?
No, I think that's a good intro to it.
Solid. All right, so the next thing I want to go to is our automotive fun fact quiz of the week.
Okay. All right. I like this one.
All right, so what is our largest expense category within our dealerships outside of the cost of inventory? And fun fact for you, as of yesterday morning, our cost of inventory was $31.6 million.
It's large.
That's what we have available on the ground that we've paid for. $31.6 million in inventory that we got to find a home for. So outside of that, what is our largest expense category?
I think I got this one, but we'll wait and see.
Don't answer.
Okay.
So think about that one. Give us some options and comments on what you think of our largest expense category outside of inventory.
Okay. And I'll even throw it out there that if you take the amount of interest we pay on inventory, the answer we're going to give you is even larger than that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Okay, next up, ways AI can actually improve customer connections.
Okay,
We've kind of gone into that, so we'll take it and move on. That's how this podcast goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Without losing the personal touch. And I think we'll pick up here, and I'll kick it back to Shelby to kind of pick the ball up with what he was talking about. But here's where I want him to take it from, is how do you utilize AI, but you don't make it into the frustrating prompted call service.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been there. I was on the phone call yesterday with it. Hit number 2, hit number 3, enter your social, enter this. I know it's not your social, but
give me an agent.
give me all
Customer
this stuff.
representation, like-
Zero.
And it's like, have
And
you
just speak to
rebooted your
agent.
modem?
Representative.
Did you know you could visit our website? Most questions could be answered there.
Right.
I've already been there. That's where I got your phone number.
Yeah.
You know, we're all frustrated there. So then how do we take a little bit of a step back, utilize AI, but then make sure that we still have the personal touch for an employee? Like, how do they grab that ball from what you're talking about and then continue on with it?
So let me talk about that with Numa.
Yep.
What we were previously talking about. So it starts that process of communication because it's a lot of text, and so its main job is to take a missed call and start that text communication.
Yep.
But then if a customer says, yes, I need to know an update on my 2018 F-150, I haven't been able to get a hold of Larry.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, perfect, yeah. So then it will text back, but at the same time, whether it recognizes it through our DMS system or it recognizes Larry's name,
Yep.
it's going to then tag Larry to it.
Okay.
And then there's timers built in, and we constantly move these timers to say what is a realistic amount for the employees, but also for the consumer, because we realize the window's pretty small, right? Now, text means you've got a little bit more time because they're not just sitting there on hold and they can be doing something else. But then we've built timers in where then Larry can respond and say, hey, it's me, you know. Like that they know that a system was talking to them, but it's a real system. But then also that it's a Lewis Automotive employee on the other side. And so then we put a timer in to say if said agent, Larry, who works here, does not within 9 minutes, then it tags all connected managers to that. It says, hey, this one needs attention.
Yep.
And so before that customer started boiling, it allowed service manager, service director, foreman, and me on there. So whoever's available, hop in. And then because it's such a adapting, moving forward system, it is so good that you can move through it that I can tag and say, hey, no, this is a parts. I need help from parts. And so I can just do @ and tag LFS parts. And so then they all get the notification. And so without them having to pick up another phone because they got a phone going looking for these parts and another screen, it just pings them. It says, hey, can you check on Mrs. Davis's F-150? She needs an update. And so they, while they're on hold with someone else and looking for something and waiting on tech hotline, they go, oh yeah, that came in this morning. I got it out to Justin. He's working on your truck. So then service knows, hey, we've got the part. And then they can get an update to Miss Davis. Hey, absolutely, your part came in this morning. We're working on it. We'll let you know as soon as it's ready. So you take the system, the process, the AI, and then you have the where it segues over to us.
Yes.
And they realize it's still a human, so you're not caught in this phone like, give me representative, and they're like, no, I need your manager who actually knows what's going on. Here's my loyalty number. You don't even see my records. I've already had to tell this story 6 times. And we've learned from obviously trials and tribulations of what we do wrong, but what we is experience as well.
I think that's a point, and we're not perfect on it yet, but one of the things, and I'll talk about in service and in sales, of picking the ball up from technology and AI we're talking about right now, is we've all been caught in that. I was on a support chat this morning, and I typed out all my stuff, my original invoice number, this and that. Finally got to an agent, and then the agent says, how can I help you? And I'm like, and this is what I typed in there, and I wasn't trying to be an angry person, but I was like, please see all the previous messages before, because it had it all in there.
Can you scroll up?
And it's like, well, just let me know what you're looking for. And I'm like, I've already taken all the time to get, I don't mind giving the information. I don't want to give it multiple times. Same thing happens at a doctor's office. I go in, I'm not saying all doctor's offices are this way, but I go in and the nurse or whoever checked me in, I go over everything. And I see them typing it in the computer, all the stuff. Then the doctor goes in and like, what's going on?
What are you here for?
What are you here for? And I'm like, I just spent the last 15 minutes pouring everything out to there. So I think what's important is if it's with Numa, that we've actually looked at it and we go, hey, I see that you're inquiring about the status of your part. Here's what I found out. That's real. That's a smooth handoff. If it's with sales, it's the same thing. That our goal, and we've been talking about this, is to meet the customer where they are in the process.
Yeah.
Process of getting it repaired, process of buying. You know, where are you at on buying? Because, you know, the stats say it's over 20 hours now, but it was 20 hours on the internet before they reach out to us. So in order to reduce frustration and increase the customer satisfaction, we must meet the customer where they are. And it must be a smooth handoff. You know, we can't be at the 20-yard line and all of a sudden get the ball and say, let's go all the way back to the other goal line and just start over. Don't give up that progress of 80 yards you've already made. But I'm not telling you we have all that figured out. It's just what we're working towards.
No. And what most people learn within our industry or within our business is they enjoy being able to see, you know, you say the doctors, that you can see the records.
Yes.
Right? So before they fully put their foot in their mouth or say, hey, what are you here for? I don't think anyone really likes intentionally getting punched. You know, sometimes they just do it out of reaction, like, hey, you just here shopping, or what's going on? You're not feeling good? So because like in Numa or in our CRM, you can go back and look at history. What have they clicked in? Do they have a trade in? What is their vehicle here in service for? And so then you can be super educated. It's no different than if you show up here at the dealership and I'm walking the lot or going around greeting people or checking on the team and I up a customer. Because we should all always stop and say, hey, welcome Lewis Automotive. How can I be of assistance? And so they're like, hey, I'm actually looking for a new Ranger. I need a 4-wheel drive. I'm coming from a car. I need a truck. If I ever introduce that, and that person, I'm like, hey, absolutely, let me get one of my specialists that's going to know way more than me. And that means, hey, I need to get a salesperson to help me out so they can give them the time they need. I'm going to, this is so important and specific, I will find a sales professional. And between that, I'll offer some hospitality.
Sure.
Hey, can I get you some coffee or some water, complimentary? No, I'm great, whatever. And so then I'll bring that salesperson in, but before I do, I'll recap.
Yes.
Hey, this is Matt.
Yes.
I just met him earlier. He is super excited. He is coming from a SUV or a car. He's looking for a Ford Ranger. He needs a 4-door, 4-wheel drive. He needs a red, black, or silver. Did I miss anything, Matt, on what we were talking about? And he's like, nope. It's like, perfect. This is Steve. He's one of my sales professionals. He is very specific in Rangers. Steve, do you have any questions about what Matt's looking for?
Yeah.
And I said, perfect. You guys take it from here.
Yeah.
You know, and so then that is and so we want to do that with AI as well. Let's see what conversation they've already had so they don't have your exact situation. They say, oh, did you have a question? And they're like, dadgummit.
That is so important. Know this whenever you get into AI, and don't flip the switch and just turn it on and say, here you go, turn it loose, because it will run away. But know that whenever you get AI in, that is so strong, and I love that going out. Us being in sales, whenever you go out and you see somebody walk through and you inquired about something, you walk in the door and they're like, hey, Taylor, are you here to see your F-150? Instead of, hey, what are you doing here? Because it's a different approach than it should normally be of just talking to a customer out on the lot. But doing the handoff of what you're talking about is what you can still do with AI technology if you manage it properly.
I think that's important, and you were talking, and it just brought up, I'm working through a book right now called How to Talk to Anyone, and this lady is a master communicator on there. One of the things she talks about is exactly what you're talking about, and it's called about the transfer. So she talks about it in person, or if we're doing it from technology to a person or person to person. You know, she talks a whole lot about never have an empty transfer.
Yeah.
So if you want success, if you want the ball to continue to roll like that conversation, and in our business, the communication to get to the next step in the sale or repairing your vehicle, don't hand somebody off without any information. And what you just said was perfect, is you got to give them a little bit. Here's where they're currently at. Here's what they're looking for. And here's a hobby they're into or something.
Yeah.
Well, here's my specialist that knows the ins and outs of all the F-150s. Here's my service advisor who's been with us for X amount of years. They're really good at walking through these situations. So you don't have an empty transfer, and that person can pick the ball up at the right stage and continue moving forward with it. We don't want to back all the way up. That's a bad experience and a bad handoff.
To go one layer deeper on that of not having an empty transfer, it's funny you say that because we've just learned to do that.
I know.
People are writing books and making money
I was like, yeah!
No, we do that. And it does a couple things. If you break that down, like this is where you freeze frame, and you start breaking it down, it does a couple things, and it's very intentional. Now I do it for many different reasons. One, to say to my salespeople, hey, bozo, there are customers outside you should be talking to, but I'll never say that. I just said it, but I'll never say it. But I boost the confidence of the salesperson by saying, hey, here's my F-150 specialist. There's no one on the lot that knows more than them. So they're like, dang,
that's
Shelby
me.
picked me. That's me, right? The customer has confidence because I've instilled it that he's the F-150 specialist. So they're not going to question like, hey, do you even know anything about trucks? Then the customer is delighted on the same speech that I took the time, not me as Shelby Lewis, but just me as a person, took the time to hear what they said and regurgitate it. And I asked them, hey, did I miss anything? And they're like, nope, that's it. I was like, okay, perfect. Now my specialist meets my customer, who is very important. And I regurgitated all the things, and I just boosted both of their levels of confidence. I boosted their levels of efficiency. I put them right where they stopped at. That should just project it to a quicker, better experience, like right from the get-go.
I got to compound even more on that because this is such a good subject. Is you did the transfer, you told them where to be, you boosted the confidence with whoever they are, and then one additional step you can take is you can set the expectations. So you can tell them, say, here's what's going to happen.
Here's what's going to happen.
Shelby's going to take you on a test drive.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and take a look at your trade-in. We'll meet back inside to review all the figures. And just to let you know, is my sales manager then will take over. Those numbers, though, are coming from me. He'll be able to communicate. What I've done is I've set up the transfer. I've set up the expectations that I know I want done as a business owner. And then I've told them so-and-so is going to be able to do that because I need to free myself back up and put that confidence in there.
Yes. You'd never realize it, listening, going through, hearing this, of a good process of what you want to do. So often, more than not, it happens of the bad handoff. And the bad handoff, if you handle it, and we've all been in that situation, that whether, and a lot of times we'll be walking through the showroom and it's real quick. Hey, Matt, I got something. And you're like, whoop. And then you turn real quick so you don't get to present yourself through the whole thing. But whenever then you go to hand off and you're like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't want to say. And you don't want to stick your foot in the mouth. Like, I've been talking with this guy through everything because it wasn't handed off properly. Hey, Matt, this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're here to look at the expedition. I'll do that all day long. And I can stop and pull the e-brake and go through. But you don't realize how bad that process is until you go through the correct process of what we've been talking about.
I think that's probably how, just by default, how we got better at it. How we got good because of the bad. Because like, I don't know this person from Adam. Now, I apologize. I see a lot of people. And I maybe I know who they are, but I can't remember their name. And so we just kind of teach and train on that, whether it's going from an AI system to, hey, this person, like, I saw a decent amount of people that via Instagram or via Facebook Messenger that I don't know their phone number and I've never met them in person. But then it has to be a proper handoff. I meet them at their channel, at their level of communication from an AI system or a system of technology, may we say, and just having that good transfer. And so then if it doesn't come to you properly, a handoff, later that conversation would be like, hey, remember how I introduced you to Mr. Smith? Like, wasn't that nice that you knew everything? Would you mind, would it be okay if you gave me all the information you knew in 30 seconds or less next time you hand over so that I can continue to give it back to you? And so just teaching, coaching, and counseling on that.
I think so. That's just so important, that communication, that handoff. And I think if you talk to any service advisor or any sales manager that I've brought them a referral, I'll send them their referral information, but I'll go in person, and I'm just a walking around talking type person. And I say, like, hey, I sent you so-and-so. Let me give you a little bit of backstory so you know enough so you can pick the ball up in the correct area.
Yeah.
This is how they normally do business. Here's what I would do. Here's what I would show. So I give some insight so then they can pick it up, and that transfer is so smooth.
So that's having the systems to help you scale,
Yep.
be efficient without losing the personal touch.
Absolutely.
Well, let's answer that fun fact.
Fun fact. So, what is the largest expense category for the most car dealerships after the cost of the inventory? We kind of talked about this, but I know y'all kind of had a couple ideas. We took the inventory out of it.
I'll throw the, but like I said, though,
Okay.
take the cost of inventory, but the interest, which is enormous. You take $31 million and pay, you guys know the interest rate out there. Pay the interest on that. I'll throw it in of all expenses.
No expenses paid.
No, yeah, we pay them. We pay them. What is the highest? What is the highest?
I mean, this is the driving factor of your business and what helps make the business
We got
successful.
about
so-
260 of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what most people would say when they're driving down the interstate right now? They would say it's got to be your rent factor.
That's
All those new buildings and the 26 acres, it's got to be your rent factor.
Wait, but even as high as that is, it's not.
It's not it.
No.
It's not it.
It's payroll. It's all the individuals that are in your business, in our business. That is the next highest expense right behind inventory.
It's our number one expense. I like to call it investment. It's our number one investment, and it has been throughout all the years. It's the highest, we'll call it like expense here. It's the highest expense, but it's the last thing we look at when we need to reduce expenses.
Yeah.
We look at systems, we look at shop supplies, we look at office supplies, we look at renegotiating contracts with vendors before we ever look at our highest expense, which is payroll.
Which you have to be super mindful, and I might have said this, but I'll say it again. I saw the other day the military spends on average $1 million to train a new military personnel to get up to speed before they send them to battle or whatever they do. So it is your largest expense, and make sure you're spending it the right way.
God, that's a good point. That's a good
And
point.
make sure that you're getting a good ROI.
Yep.
Don't just hire them, sit them, forget them, plug and play them. Like, no, just because it is and it was doesn't mean it has to be. So it is by far the largest.
It is.
The largest. You would never guess or know the payroll expense, and it's super high. But the rate of return when trained and given the right direction of the transfer and all the things is very good.
You got to make sure you go back through, and we've talked about on the episodes, but the time, the tools, and the training necessary to succeed, and that comes from managers. I saw a video the other day, and it made so much sense, it made me laugh, is that a manager was complaining about an employee won't do this, won't do that, won't do that. And their manager looked at him and said, well, who hired this person? So, well, I did. Well, remember when you came to my office and you sold me on them and how great they were? Now, why can't you as a manager pull that greatness out of them and support them and help them move the mark?
That's
You know?
more times than not, you look at that and see that that manager that did that isn't doing everything they need to give them obviously.
Little checkup time.
Yep.
It is big there. Hey, we've hit on the other two topics, but coming down, the biggest risk and mistake small business owners must avoid when embracing AI. So this is really big. Obviously, we know anything technology comes in there, but data privacy, ethical concerns, and over-reliance on automation.
I think that I'll take this to start off. I think that's why it's so important where you use it at an individual or a text-wise. And if you get it where it's going to open up, like take Numa, for example. Numa is connected to some of our other software. That you take the time and make sure that they have the credentials, the insurance to be able to cover. You're not going to get, let me just tell you this. Don't get a free tool out there and connect them to your CRM or your DMS.
No, that's going to be expensive.
Okay, you need to pay money if you want the protection there. Now, different than if you're using it plugged into your phone or plugged into your email and you're getting used to it all. But you got to do your due diligence too there, because you got to remember that the customer and identity fraud, it's by far greater than any other fraud out there, and it's something that can take your business the other direction really fast.
Yeah, I mean, it quickly can be compromised. It quickly can be stolen, and it's information that no one really generally is going to do anything with, but they can hold a really large leverage point on you. So if you let the wrong system in that you haven't done their due diligence or doesn't have the correct layers of security, in the end, you're the one that gave them that gateway, and so then you're responsible.
So for everybody out there is like, well, how do we do that, Matt? I got 10 employees. How do I do that? Well, here's number one thing. You ask whichever company you're looking at, what type of backing do you give on identity theft? How am I protected once I give you? And you say, well, show me that. Show me how you protect me there. And then you go to your insurance company at the same time and say, hey, I need to make sure that I have cybersecurity here. Don't necessarily just pay them more for cybersecurity if you're paying it over there, but they're more than happy to look at that contract with you as well to say you're covered or you're not covered. So those two you got to look at. Don't run scared from it. Just do your due diligence and make sure you have something in place.
Yes, so those roll straight into this next part of it, but how mistakes, so over-reliance, bad AI outputs, and impersonal service, so it being too computer-generated, how that can damage your brand so easily.
I think that's with any system.
Yes.
With any system that we put in place, or if we got a new product, or if we open up a new store, a new department, it becomes a whole lot more of not necessarily micromanaging the people, but micromanaging that business or that system to make sure that installation period and that first 6 months or first 12 months, depending upon the system, that you are getting those alerts. And you're almost getting inundated with all the stuff to go, you need to have invested interest. Is this doing what we were promised? Is this enhancing our brand? Or is this diminishing our brand value? And the only way to do that is boots on the ground, ears to the ground, and you're listening and you're watching. You can't replace inspecting and actually hearing what's going on with anything else. None of it's a set it and forget it.
So talk about businesses and how understanding how AI can be bad. You say, especially in the early infancy ages, you have to really, really, really keep your hands on it, give direction. So McDonald's ends their AI experiment after drive-through order blunders. So they had an AI system that they piloted at 100 different stores.
Okay.
And it was on the speaker and the microphone in the drive-through. And like, hey, this is pretty simple. People speak in their order, and then it throws it in the POS system, the point-of-sale system, and then bam, we're good to go, right? Seems simple enough. Well, what you don't understand is there's about 1 million different versions of the English language. There's hillbilly, there's hillbilly, there's hillbilly
New Yorkers,
there's New Yorkers, Northerners,
Californians.
and so they worked with IBM for 3 years. IBM, pretty reputable company.
Okay.
To leverage AI to take drive-through orders, and they put it in 100 different stores. And they said one TikTok video in particular, so you know it's real, featured 2 people repeatedly pleading with the AI to stop as it kept taking Chicken McNugget orders on and on and on, eventually ending with 260 orders of chicken nuggets.
Excuse me?
And so the internal memo obtained said shut down all AI systems that had to do with ordering. So it seemed to be a great idea, and they had worked with a good company to make sure that they could make it work. But there was some human element.
Yeah.
You know, their car muffler's really loud, or the kids are screaming in the back, or they didn't speak clearly, or they didn't read it verbatim how it was supposed to be, or they Kevin Harted the coffee order, whatever it may be. But then they kept close enough hands on it that they could say, well, not a great idea, pull it back. Before it just completely, that they said, hey, boom, AI, I'm good to go. I'm going to hit the beach.
Yeah, can't do
you know.
Because if not, the AI company is not going to be the one at fault. No different than whenever Ford, CDJR, whenever we have a product that we have taken in and facilitated, they're not at fault. You are. We are as the business. And if you're not closely managing that, you'll come back from being gone, wanting to be at the beach, everything else. And it's like the old visions you see of the printer of like Santa's wish list just shooting over your head.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, what happened? You weren't inspecting the process.
And I'll tell you that within ChatGPT, when I use it to generate, to get a good final product that I want to start an idea list or for a post, I'll say try that again 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And so it says, hey, try that again, but write it more simple. Try that again and add less sass to it. So then you have to hone that in. Now, it's still doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but you give it direction. You cannot just say, go, just because somebody said this system's good.
I think that's the good point on the human element, and that's not going away. And if we go back, if we've got some older listeners out there, like think about when robotics first started going into manufacturing. Everybody's like, you're just going to have factories full of robotics. You still have to have people to work on them, adjust them, program them, tell them what's going on. It's the same thing. The human element, guys, is not going away. No. The role may change, but that's no different than the workforce looks way different today than it did in the 1900s or the 1800s. Yeah. Like, you just evolve.
Yeah. And I think you have to stay relevant to be able, because our number one cost, short of the inventory, cost of employees. We're not trying to eliminate employees, but if we can continue to scale the business and stay at the 260.
Yes.
So we didn't eliminate any jobs, but we helped each person be more efficient than the output or the throughput, and the end result serve more customers at a more efficient rate, at a higher level, at a lower price, means everyone gets to grow.
Yep.
And we evolved. Otherwise, you're going to say, no, I don't do AI. No, I won't use a computer. No, I'll do this. And you'll become a thing of the past.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You can't.
That's right.
That's huge deep dive into AI, talking about being fully involved. Anything else there on that you think we had missed on? Because, talking of staying on top of it, being involved, and making sure you still have to manage AI. You're managing them no different than like an employee would be.
Yeah.
Other employee. All right, our fun fact quiz, obviously, in there. Questions on here. Now, this is almost preloaded and asked about in here because, of course, you're going to have any of those days or anything else. But Matt and Shelby will both go into and we can come back in there. So, Matt, kicking off with you, have you ever thought about not being in the automotive business?
Our production manager really threw this one out there, didn't they?
I can almost answer that, but
so I think every human mind, no matter what business you're in, it always wonders, what about this, what about that? And that's part of our creative flow. I love what we're doing and what we can provide not only for our customers but for our employees. I have had different jobs before this.
Yeah.
But, like if I just had to paint up on a wall or really think on those days, like, hey, what if I did something else? It would have to be something with numbers and trends. Yeah. I like both of that and seeing opportunities. Not necessarily like the accountant side, but maybe the investment side, or maybe looking for trends and opportunities you could do there. It would probably be something in that realm.
Something like that, but I envision like you see old school professor that has the green board that is really long and they've chalked the entire thing. Matt really likes charts and everything else, so of data and everything else in there.
But I don't like the data and then turn it into somebody. I like the data to be able to use it then to explain to somebody to help them progress whatever their profession is. So it could even be some training within that on how to develop leaders or trends or whatever else it may be.
Fair enough. Shelby, what is something that you wished you knew before you started in the automotive?
It's probably best that I didn't know most of this stuff before I started, because I might not have started. We grew up around this industry.
I had an idea before.
We had an idea that I make American car parts for American working man.
Makes me feel bad about every time I ever gave my dad a hard time whenever he came home from work.
Because he never brought any of that home with him.
No.
He
Never did a fantastic
complained,
job.
Never whined, never, like, oh, these customers burned us, or we're printing in the red again this month, or
Never said that.
hey, the manufacturer
'Cause you know it
screwed
did.
us on this.
Oh,
Oh,
you know
yeah,
it
these employees called in, or you're not going to believe what Larry did, or
Yeah.
what. But so, luckily he didn't do that, so we didn't see behind the scenes. And I will tell you, the good outweighs the
It
bad
does.
every single
Absolutely.
day. We worked from a really early age because it meant if we had a job, which none of us worked at the dealership first, but if we had a job, we could get a hardship, which means we had freedom and we could drive. So then we went to college, and then we during the summers got to work at the dealership. Now I'm a very hands-on person. I thrive on the idea of being able to fix, and I love it now showing my kids because
Sure.
they're like, hey, this is broken. I'm like, yeah, we can fix it. And every once in a while they say, man, Dad can fix anything. I'm like, yep, I'm a doer. I can figure it out. But there's been some times where like, man, I wish during my summers, instead of just goofing off, I would have went and got, because I can weld a bunch of different ways, and I've built a whole lot of stuff. And like, man, I wish I would have taken time to go get certified in this.
Yep.
And there's definitely the what if, like, man, I wish I would have, had I known, right? Because now all my time is filled with things. So I have to be super intentional to get outside of that. But had I known before, maybe I would have been more well versed in some other areas. Not to change my trajectory,
Sure.
just to have more depth in those areas.
That's
good.
good.
Of skills and skill sets, and but yeah, where we're at's pretty good.
No, it is. I'm going to jump, even though that was your question. I got to say something
You
here.
go ahead.
Okay, I got to say something
Yeah.
here. There's nothing that really, I don't know, that Dad could have taught us or you could have learned in college that has to deal with people in conflict. And, one of the things that just takes time and really some maturity and wisdom is thicker skin, really thicker skin, and then really don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
They don't really mean it.
They don't mean it. And I can remember when I took that, in my 20s and even in my early 30s, when I took that personal, and I took it, and it was not unnecessary. And now you've been through enough battles that you're like, I know what this outcome is. Just let the fire die down a little bit, and then there will be a solution there. Don't let it wreck your day. You don't have to stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because initially, early in your career, you're just like, something happens, whoop, jerk, go handle that.
And that's so hard. One, because you care and you want to be the best that you can, but like it has to be super thick, and you just have to. And it's because I have a buddy that just got served papers for a lawsuit, and lawsuits come from all different directions.
Sure.
And we have had plenty of them for just random different reasons. Some kind of deserved, and most of them not at all. And I could see the look on his face, like it's about to destroy him.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I can give you any device, do not give that thing any power.
Don't give it any.
You have an attorney.
Yep.
You did what was right, and you let that ride. And I tried and just like, hey, it's not that big.
It's okay.
And he was like, I just got the ask today, and it was over $3 million. Like, offer him $350 back.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a
Turn
big
it
deal.
over to your insurance company and move on.
Because it diverts your time and your effort into what you love to do and what you're good at.
Yep.
And I remember the first handful of those, and never to be taken lightly. Like, you give them the attention that they need, but then you hand it to the person that handle it and let them sweat it.
Yeah.
Because it will wreck you. Kind of like some of this construction and some of the things that we face. I remember just walking around this place, just like before it was ever anything. It's just like, oh my Lord, please help me. I don't know how and what and where and when. And like we're a year into this thing, and she's still floating, and we're still loving life at whatever level.
Oh,
so
yeah.
don't sweat the small
Just
things.
don't.
Get thick skin.
Yeah.
Just kind of like Weekend at Bernie's. Just,
Yeah. It's so important to know anything that you get into. No one can teach you, and two, you're not going to know. Because if we'd been set up in that of like, hey, you're going to have these late nights, you're going to get screamed at, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you're going to say, why in the world
What am I doing?
do this? But you get into it, no different than loving a kid growing up. Of whenever they yell at you or do anything else, you look at and you say, nope, that's exactly why I do that. So whatever business you get into it because it's something you enjoy doing, because it will far outweigh anything that definitely any of the bad days. So huge. We kind of got off of AI there in all of it, but all of it definitely relevant. Really good insight of AI and all the pieces of it there. So always check us out on lewissuperstore.com. Click the like, subscribe on YouTube there, and at crossroadsconversationpodcast.com.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.